name is Robert Reich. This is Wealth and Poverty. What we are going to be talking about is happening now.
I've been a teacher for 42 years.
1, 2, 3.
I'm beginning my last semester. I've done a lot of other things. That's when we got the minimum wage increase through a Republican-controlled Congress.
I was economic advisor to Barack Obama. I was Secretary of Labor.
But I've always come back to teaching, and I can't imagine not doing it. I still feel that excitement, that energy.
What do we owe each other as members of the same community?
So many people have come up to me and said, "Are you still teaching, or are you retired?" And I resist the urge to punch them in the nose.
One of the best ways of learning is to discuss something with somebody who disagrees with you.
Can I do what I love to do as well as I should be doing it?
The wealth is held by the richest 400 Americans. You get the picture.
We have to all engage their curiosity. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It's active. You can't reach their intellect if you don't reach their emotions.
I began to see bullying all around. Economic bullying, racial bullying, the bullying of anybody who's different.
If there are enough people who feel bullied, they begin to have power. For them, it's not ending, it's beginning. And this is the connection between teachers and students. It's about the passage of time.
This is our final class. You've made it.
And at a deeper level, the arc of one's life.
A true leader helps people overcome cynicism. I believe in your capacities. I believe in your commitment. I believe in you. It's going to be a wild ride. Thank you for joining me.
Joined now by Samantha Elfmont from the World Central Kitchen. Thank you for being here with us. I know that some teams of yours have been on the ground over the weekend. So initially, what's the biggest need that you're seeing right now, and who are the kinds of people that you're serving?
Thank you for having us, Kana. I'm here in Hunt, Texas, with the Guadalupe River behind us. I'm in a community who's literally gutting their homes. What we do at World Central Kitchen is ensure that they are having those meals, those sandwiches. We'll have a food truck here tomorrow for these 50 homes in this community to be able to eat and have lunch, dinner while they are actually working and cleaning out their homes. Every organization is specifically asking for their needs. We're focused on food.
And it's something we know that these people can't go without. Do you anticipate the need growing here in the coming days? And how long do you think you'll be on the ground?
So we're an emergency feeding organization. So on July 4th, when those families were being reunited, a few of the camps actually reached out to us directly. How can you help us? We don't have food. These families are in anguish. So we were here. We're always here on day 0, we say, when these horrible things happen. We can't predict. We're finishing up our assessments today for the food need. I will say Texas State Management is doing a great job for the first responders now. Those people we were supporting, now we're turning to feeding local residents as they are out in the hot heat and need some meals, some drinks, even just bringing electrolytes today and having people take a seat, take a break, made a huge difference. It is hot here. It is humid. That is the need that we are finding for us as food organizations.
Things that are so simple yet go so far. I know your organization as well really relies on those partnerships with local restaurants, local people within the community. Tell us how that collaboration works.
Sure, Kana. It's very simple. We always say communities are our superpower. We look to communities. On day 1, day 2, day 30, whenever we're somewhere, we always work with local partners. We always adjust. We make sure that those partners are paid for the food that they're making. Those are local restaurants. Those are local residents. We're not bringing in big trucks. We know the food is already here and available, so we use those food products, those food ingredients. We've got so much grown here in Texas, and with Texas protein as well. So we have 8 local restaurant partners we're working with, and I'm proud to say that we have fed 1 in 4 residents here in Hunt and also in Ingram, which is unbelievable to me.
Wow, that is huge. That must go so far for those people. And just lastly and quickly, I know you've said they're not looking for volunteers in this moment, but if somebody's watching and they want to help, how can they do that?
The way that folks can help who are watching this around the world in the U.S., WCK.org, for direct donations. It'll help us buy sandwiches and meals tomorrow. That's the best way to help.
Okay, that's a good note. Samantha Elfmont, thank you, and thank you for the work that you're doing. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Kana.
Now at 10:30, a new app called ICE Block allows users to report immigration and customs enforcement activity with just 2 taps on a smartphone. The app is completely anonymous and controversial, of course, but it is also gaining popularity across the country and right here in Los Angeles, where immigration raids continue to impact communities.
KTLA's Lindsay Pena joins us live in Hollywood with more on how the ICE Block app works. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Cher and John. Yeah, federal agents were actually spotted at the Hollywood Home Depot just yesterday, taking several people into custody. It's exactly the kind of thing designed to be reported on the new ICE Block app. Today, I had a chance to talk to the creator about how it is growing in popularity and the controversy it's generating. As immigration operations continue across the country and here in Southern California, a new app called ICE Block is quickly gaining users. It allows anyone to report and be notified of ICE sightings in their area.
That's what this whole thing is about. Get it into as many people's hands as possible so that everybody can protect themselves and their communities from what is going on in this country.
The app's creator, Joshua Aaron, says it's designed to be simple to use and 100% anonymous, which means it's only available on iOS. Android devices would have required them to collect user data.
It's always better to err on the side of caution for our users.
ICE Block lets users report ICE sightings within 5 miles of their current location and also get notifications. See something, tap something is their slogan. Aaron stresses it's for information purposes only, something also stated on the app.
This app does not dox anybody. There are no photos or videos. This app is to inform, not obstruct. We do not condone violence against officers of the law or against federal officials of any kind.
ICE Block has already landed on the radar of the White House. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt referring to it during Monday's briefing.
Surely it sounds like this would be an incitement of further violence against our ICE officers. As you know, as you've stated, there's been a 500% increase in violence against ICE agents, law enforcement officers across the country who are just simply trying to do their jobs.
In a statement, Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons saying in part about recent reporting on the app, advertising an app that basically paints a target on federal law enforcement officers' backs is sickening. Aaron says in the last several days, they've gained tens of thousands of users, 77,000 and counting. As the controversy grows around ICE Block, he says he stands behind what he's done.
I can't live in fear. And this is way more important because if we can save one person's life, if we can just help one person avoid an encounter or some horrible situation, that's all that matters.
U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has reportedly said that Aaron should watch out because the DOJ is now looking at him. Aaron says he's not worried about legal action. The ICE Block app is free to download and available now in 14 different languages. We're live in Hollywood. Lindsay Pena, KTLA 5 News. John and Cher.
Hear the buzz, and all you can do is wait. Kiev has seen this almost every night for months. But there was something about Thursday night's ferocity that seemed new and unchecked, even underground. No sleep is the norm, huddling in basements too. If you're not so immune to the sirens, you turn over in bed when you hear them. Hearing Russia broke another record of drones fired has also happened a lot this past month. What was different was the possibility the capital's air defences behind interceptions like these might be in trouble. Gunners tried to pick off drones, but the American supply of Patriots that take down Russian ballistic missiles is, at best, in doubt. leaving nights here longer and louder, and solace something you find in the subway. A record assault that came moments after Presidents Trump and Putin spoke. That too did not go well.
I'm very disappointed with the conversation I had today with President Putin, because I don't think he's there. I don't think he's there. And I'm very disappointed. Well, it's not, I'm just saying, I don't think he's looking to stop. And that's too bad.
Among the smouldering remains of civilian worlds terrorized, Ukraine's foreign minister claimed fragments of a Goran 2 combat drone were found, made in China. The growing global footprint of a war where Kiev's daylight is darkened still by the smoke of the night before, and where the damage done is measured in intimate personal loss. Hear what that feels like for those whose broken homes lie in pieces around them.
Сьогоднішня атака – це сама страшніша для нас атака за ці 3,5 роки, скільки взагалі вже ця війна. Не пишуть друге, пишуть взагалі, що він пустить по 700, по 800 шахедів. Ви вибачте, але не ми, не наше ППО, воно просто не витримує.
Ну, сьогодні це все. Дрони летіли, ви знаєте, не наче рой бджіл випустили, і вони оце летять. Це таке жахіття було, це дуже велике жахіття. Хай те всі американці знають, як ми тут живемо, мучимося.
Це дуже страшно. Коли люди залишаються без нічого, це дуже страшно. Але ж маленькі дітки, оце зараз нема ні газу, нема, допустимо, ні світла. Ми на Америку практично вже ніякої надії не маємо. Це у нас тільки є надія на наших.
Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, London.
A powerful journey is continuing along the Klamath River, where Indigenous kids have launched a historic 310-mile expedition down the river to reconnect with their heritage while celebrating the river, which has been blocked for generations. The North States News' Emma Underwood spoke with those going on this journey to see what's driving them to make this trek.
It's the first journey of its kind. Over 30 Indigenous youth, ages 13 to 21, are paddling from Oregon to the Pacific over a 30-day span. It's called the First Descent. It's guided by Rios to Rivers Paddle Tribal Waters Program, a nonprofit rooted in environmental justice and tribal sovereignty.
For a long time, we're always taught that our river was so dirty and so gross that we shouldn't go near it, and it's not something really to play with. Like, we thought of it obviously like as our family member and like our source of life.
These young adults have been training for this since summer 2022.
The First Descent means everything to me, honestly. Like, my family and my people have been fighting for our river for so long.
For organizers like Danielle Frank, it's a moment of healing for the river and for Indigenous communities long divided by colonialism and displacement.
This is one way we're able to do a lot of healing. Like, we're able to pick up that responsibility, but we're also able to talk to each other about why our communities look the way that they do and how colonialism has affected us and our waters and how we're going to work together to prevent that from happening in the future. There's been a lot of disconnect between tribes and community members throughout this fight for dam removal, and this is our opportunity to remind us that we're all from the same river, we all have ties to each other, and like we're here to support each other, to connect each other, and that our people are strong.
The journey ends July 11th with a celebration along with the Free River Symposium, a global call to protect rivers and the communities who depend on them. Emma Underwood, the North States News.
The trip follows the largest dam removal project in U.S. history, restoring flow to the Klamath after over a century of blockage. With every mile, these young paddlers are proving that restoring a river means restoring identity, unity, as well as hope.
Ravine has been the home of the Dodgers for the last 62 years, but before that, 3 vibrant neighborhoods stood on that land.
Well, now, a bill in the state assembly would address the injustices faced by people who were kicked out of their homes. KCAL News reporter Jeff Nguyen has the story of the push for reparations.
You know, I think we all like to get into some good trouble.
Activists and state leaders are looking to draw attention to the stories of people like 81-year-old Carol Hawkes.
It was really very traumatic and very difficult for me.
She was born in what is now known as Chavez Ravine, home to Dodger Stadium. When she was 8, her family lost their homes to eminent domain.
Many of us were homeowners. I want to say we were not a slum.
Which is why Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo and Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara introduced a bill this week to look at reparation for families who lost their homes through eminent domain or eviction in the 1950s.
By creating a public and searchable database detailing events surrounding the land acquisition, this will foster transparency and education about this pivotal moment.
What's your stance on reparations?
Well, 100%. I believe it's appropriate.
David Hernandez is the Republican Party Regional Vice Chair of LA County.
I think there needs to be some insurances within the process that it stays focused on those who benefited financially, not the taxpayers of Los Angeles.
The attorney behind the reparation effort says the return of Bruce's Beach to a black family has set precedent. Activists are now looking at models across the country to figure out what reparation will look like and who qualifies.
We are going to take time to create a task force that does the investigation and the data-driven analysis.
In the meantime, Ms. Jaquez and other impacted families have been documenting their stories through an archive at LMU.
We have to be truthful, we have to educate, and we have to all decide collectively what's okay.
AB 150 still needs to go through committee before lawmakers can vote on it. Advocates would like to put in a monument to educate people about the history of this area. In Elysian Park, Jeff Nguyen, KCAL News.
Why does the United States, under Donald Trump, want to own Greenland? It may sound like a strange question, but it keeps coming up, especially now that Trump is back in the White House and making big moves again. Let's break it down and see why the U.S. cares so much about this huge island in the Arctic and why it's causing trouble around the world. Trump's interest in Greenland. Back in his first term, President Donald Trump said he wanted to buy Greenland. At first, people laughed. It sounded like a joke, but Trump was serious. And now that he's president again, he's still very interested. On his first day back in office, he said Greenland was important to America. He even said, quote, "We will never give up our stake in Greenland." That's not just talk. His vice president, J.D. Vance, even visited a U.S. military base in Greenland called Pituffik. That visit made leaders in Greenland and Denmark very upset. They called it disrespectful. This shows there's real tension between the U.S. and its Arctic partners. Why Greenland matters. So, why does the U.S. care so much about Greenland? First, its location. Greenland is between North America and Europe. It's part of a cold area called the Arctic, the region around the North Pole. The Arctic is known for ice, freezing temperatures, and long winters, but it's also full of valuable land, water, and resources. As the ice melts because of climate change, new ocean routes are opening. That makes Greenland important for trade, shipping, and military power. Greenland is also home to Pituffik Space Base, one of the most northern U.S. bases in the world. It helps with missile defense and tracking satellites in space. Having control here helps the U.S. watch Russia, watch China, and stay strong in space and military tech. Greenland's resources and the economy. Greenland is also rich in natural resources. Under the ice, there may be rare earth minerals, uranium, oil, and gas. These materials are used in clean energy and new technology. Right now, China controls most of that market. The U.S. wants to change that, and Greenland could help. So far, mining in Greenland is still small, but as the ice melts, more chances to dig and drill will come, and the U.S. wants to be ready. Greenland and Denmark say no. But here's the thing, Greenland is not for sale. It's an independent area, but still part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Leaders in both Greenland and Denmark have said Trump's idea is, quote, absurd and offensive. After the U.S. vice president visited the military base, Greenland's leader refused to meet him. He called the visit a provocation. That means it felt like an insult. Even Denmark's prime minister canceled her own trip to Greenland, saying the visit made things too tense. This shows the fight isn't just about money or power, it's also about respect. Why the Arctic matters now. The Arctic is changing fast, both in weather and in world politics. As the ice melts, more countries are looking to the Arctic for power, land, and trade. Russia has built more military bases in the Arctic. China calls itself a near-Arctic state, and it's spending billions on Arctic research, shipping, and mining. The U.S. doesn't want to fall behind. Greenland is a big piece of the Arctic puzzle. It gives whoever controls it a huge advantage. If you control Greenland, you control the Arctic. Conclusion. So, why does the U.S. want Greenland? It's not just about land. It's not about Trump's ego. It's about power, safety, and the future of the Arctic. Trump's interest in Greenland might sound strange, but it shows how serious this fight is becoming. As the ice melts and countries race north, Greenland is no longer just a frozen island. It's a prize, a gateway to the future, and the whole world is watching.
Central Texas, the site of one of the most devastating and tragic floods in the United States in the past 100 years. At least 90 people have lost their lives. Many others are still missing after catastrophic flash flooding Friday morning along the Guadalupe River. This time-lapse video shows just how quickly the waters rose there, swamping a highway in a matter of minutes. The Guadalupe River rose by 26 feet in just 45 minutes. Catching countless people by surprise. Here's how some people have described what happened.
Opened the door and the water was up to the door. Ran to my room, grabbed some boots, and came back, and water was coming in the door. I just felt the whole house pick up, and been on a lot of boats, and it felt like I was in a boat.
So I said, we need to get out of the house. So I grabbed my wife, and we literally jumped in the water, and it swept us down to about 200 feet down that way. And there's a crepe myrtle tree that we grabbed hold of, and we waited for rescue. I literally pulled out my waterproof phone and started calling people going, hey, get Swiftwater Rescue to come get us, because we are like in extremis. We are in bad shape.
We just saw like an ocean out there. It's just like completely destroying everything. We saw like a whole cabin just floating down, and that's when we knew like things were getting actually real out there. Like we were starting to realize that this was a real natural disaster crisis.
Now, the entire region is in the midst of an all-hands-on-deck rescue effort with locals from all walks of life pitching in.
You know, I've got 2 babies at home. It's the least I could do. You know, they're home safe, and there's people out there that they're missing their children or their family members. So I feel like it's the least I could do to help.
Being able to find the remains and perhaps let their families know some clarity on what exactly happened for sure. I know if I was in that situation myself, it would bring me some closure knowing definitively what happened instead of continuously holding out, wondering if the one I love is still out there.
Questions are also swirling, though, about the initial response. Texas officials initially blamed the National Weather Service for failing to predict the amount of rainfall. On that, NBC News reports this, quote, independent meteorologists and a former NWS official said warnings issued in the run-up to the flooding were about as timely and accurate as could be expected with the weather data available in real time. However, the New York Times reports this, quote, crucial positions at the local offices of the National Weather Service were unfilled as severe rainfall inundated parts of central Texas on Friday morning, prompting some experts to question whether staffing shortages made it harder for the forecasting agency to coordinate with local emergency managers as floodwaters rose. That's where we start today with Texas State Senator Roland Gutierrez, his district neighbors that of Kerr County. Also joining us, MSNBC senior political analyst, Texas resident through and through, Matthew Dowd is here. But we're going to start with my colleague, NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler in Kerrville, Texas.
Today, I met with Senator Ted Cruz to ask him on some of the very important questions that you raised, Nicole.
I asked Senator Cruz if he would support eliminating FEMA like President Trump has suggested. He said no. FEMA serves a very important function, and while he would consider maybe restructuring it, he would not support eliminating FEMA. I asked the senator as well about the National Weather Service staffing cuts and the DOGE funding cuts, and whether he has concerns about the service being able to do its job. He said no. He trusts the service to provide timely updates and do their job the best they can with the resources they have. But we are continuing to press officials about what went so wrong here, why people did not understand the threat that was coming. Yes, warnings were issued, but nobody here expected the catastrophe that was downriver. Trying to press them on why that happened and what the solution is now on a policy level, Nicole.
Matt Dowd, let me bring you in on this, and let me just pull back the curtain. Our last conversation about your next appearance on this show was about a piece you wrote about trauma. And now you are in the middle of the state you love, with neighbors you love, suffering this extraordinary heartbreak. Where are your thoughts today?
I so disagree with this idea of like, there's no way to know this thing was going to come. There was no way to know, this was going to happen. It was, as Donald Trump said, it's a 100-year event. How would we know? This is flash flood alley. As the senator, I'm sure we'll talk about, this is something that we know about, that we should have been prepared for, that we should have been doing something about for decades and decades and decades, locally and at the state level and at the federal level. The fact that we didn't, and now we're sort of dealing with this immense tragedy, is so incredibly disturbing in this, because this was, in my view, the tragedy of this and the extent of the tragedy of this was totally preventable.
Bishan district in Chongqing was selected in February 2017 as a pilot for climate adaptation and began actively developing into a sponge city.
什么是海绵城市？这是一种城市开发建设的理念，就是我们把城市当成一块大的海绵体，雨水来了可以充分的吸收，需要时我们挤一挤，雨水就出来了，是非常有弹性的系统。
In recent years, Bishan district in Chongqing, China, has developed mini sponge systems.
我们这些硬质的建筑和地面是无法适应气候变化的，因此我们在园区建设的时候就制造了一些低洼处，建设雨水花园，模拟一个个的生态的小的海绵体。
When it rains, water collects in these gardens and is filtered through vegetation, soil and sand layers before being stored in underground tanks. Multiple small sponge systems beneath large buildings help disperse, manage and store rainwater more effectively. Additionally, Bishan District's Sponge City initiative has made the ground more permeable.
我们的地面就铺设了这样的透水铺砖，它有一定的孔隙率，雨水降到上面，它就往下渗，减少我们地面的一个积水的一个情况发生。一般的房子上面就是光光的水泥的，那我们要建海绵城市，像学校，除了我们周边的绿化、太阳直射的地方，就是我们的屋顶，是不是？屋顶的上面我们建成海绵，建成的绿色屋顶，我们在上面就开始铺一层的泥土，打一些小种子，最后就长出青草来。这样的话，我们这个整个的房顶就像穿了一件绿色的外套，是不是就会没那么热了？ 开心啊！开心！大家能告诉我，我们的绿色屋顶有什么作用吗？
可以帮助学校降温，还可以种一些蔬菜水果，秋天的时候就能丰收。
哇，答得太好了！我们可不要小看这么一个小小的绿色屋顶。我们中国不是有句古话吗？勿以善小而不为。虽然这一个小小的绿色屋顶对气候的调节作用是有限的，但是如果我们有一大片的绿色屋顶，或者我们整个城市都建成绿色屋顶，那么它对城市气候的调节作用一定是不可忽视的。
Motion is adopted.
The House of Representatives passed President Trump's one big beautiful tax and spending bill. We're going to take you through some of the highlights of this bill. They extended basically everything that was scheduled to expire as far as the 2017 tax cuts. The child tax credit has been $2,000. This bill will make it $2,200 and index it to inflation. The estate tax, they increased the exemption to $15 million per person. Republicans really disfavored electric vehicles and clean energy tax credits. And now anything purchased after September 30th is not eligible for those credits. On clean energy, the wind and solar in particular are taking a hit in this bill. They're going to be phased out faster. The state and local tax deduction has been capped at $10,000 since 2017. This bill also includes some new items, particularly ones that President Trump campaigned on last year when he was running for a second term. One is no tax on tips, up to a $25,000 deduction for tipped workers. Again, you're still going to pay payroll taxes on those, similar amounts for overtime pay. It's removing income taxes on the sort of half part of time and a half. So you'd still pay taxes on straight time, but then the additional half increment you wouldn't necessarily pay income tax on, you would get a deduction. Car loan interest for domestically produced cars, you'd be able to deduct thousands of dollars in interest. The fourth is a deduction for seniors. So the president talks about this bill making it so there's no tax on Social Security. That is not in fact the case. There's an approximation of that, an attempt to do something like that. It's a $6,000 per person deduction for people ages 65 and up. Generally, these provisions will all kick in for tax year 2025. They are temporary. They go from 2025 through 2028, and we'll see how they go.
This dangerous and extreme Republican budget will result in Americans losing their lives.
And the biggest point of contention is Medicaid, which is the federal state health insurance program largely for low-income people. One of the things they did is create work requirements. So able-bodied people will have to start looking for work or having work in order to be able to get Medicaid work requirements. Among the biggest single items saving money in this bill, that's about $326 billion through 2034. You also see more frequent eligibility checks in Medicaid. And there are also changes to premium tax credits under the Affordable Care Act. All those changes will mean that by 2034, 11 million people will not have health insurance compared to what would happen if Congress did nothing here. Republicans were concerned about the effect of that on the providers. And so to deal with the changes they created, there's a $50 billion rural healthcare fund.
This bill represents, in the text of this bill, the largest and greatest loss of health care in American history.
Democrats have highlighted in this bill is really the contrast between the effects on low-income people who are receiving benefits from Medicaid and nutrition assistance and the tax cuts that go to some extent to tipped workers, but a lot of money is certainly going to very high-income people. So if Democrats win the House majority next year, you may see them try to delay or change those tax cuts.
We are here in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch with our latest system, System 3, also known as JOSH. And JOSH is basically a 2.2 kilometer big floating barrier. And the biggest part of this system is made up by two wings of 4 meters deep that skim the ocean surface for floating plastics. And those plastics, they float along the wing to a central area which we call the retention zone. And the retention zone is basically a big garbage bag where all the plastics are collected. And this system is being towed through the ocean by two vessels, like the one I'm on now. And they tow this system with a very low speed, 1.5 knots or a little bit less than 3 kilometers an hour. So it's slower than you would walk. So we always see a lot of fish swimming in the system and swimming back out. And in this retention zone, we also have a lot of cameras, so we can see what's going on. We always try to find the spots here in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch with the highest plastic density, and we call those hotspots. We have computational modelers. They look at waves and current, and they are getting better and better at predicting where in this vast ocean the plastic density will be the highest. And after we've been out here for 3 or 4 days and have been collecting plastics, our garbage bag is getting full. So then we are going to do an extraction. And whenever we do an extraction, one of the two vessels towing the system is taking both wings on board, so that the other vessel is free to go to the rear, and it will then tie off the garbage bag and pull it on deck. We open it up and we dump all the plastics that we found on the deck. And after the extraction, we are sorting the plastics for different types of waste according to their different recycle streams. And we put the system back in the water and we continue towing for plastics.
ICE detention facility known and dubbed as Alligator Alcatraz is open, reportedly housing detainees. CBS News Miami reports that some Florida lawmakers wanted to have a look inside, but were stopped cold at the gates. Watch.
Democratic lawmakers attempted to get into the facility and they were denied entry. They were told it's because of safety concerns. The state Democratic lawmakers showed up to the state-run Alligator Alcatraz immigration facility on Thursday demanding to get in. They are concerned about the conditions for the migrants and wanted to see it for themselves. Our Chopper 4 captured more tents being set up Thursday afternoon as the lawmakers tried to get in.
I just recently got bit as we came walking out here, and my lips are swelling. I know that that money is not going to ensure that these people all have mosquito spray or that they're covered and that they are well taken care of. And I'm concerned about that.
And when we talk about it being inhumane, that there are questions that need to be answered. There are questions that, one, we want on the record who's responsible for this. We want on the record, are the toilets working? We want on the record how people are sleeping.
And while Florida Democrats are sounding the alarm, Republicans are moving forward with the plan. Florida Republican Senator Joe Gruters from Tampa spoke with CBS News Miami for Facing South Florida and was asked about other concerns like hurricane season.
These tents could withstand a strong Category 2 hurricane, so they can deal with winds up to 120 miles an hour. They're already prepared, and this is where Florida really excels. You know, you have Kevin Guthrie, the Department of Florida Emergency Management. You know, he helped this process by bringing all these materials. This was almost like a setup job for one of these hurricanes that we do.
Now, is there a plan in place for a hurricane above a Category 2? Gruters added that he's not sure exactly what that plan would look like, but said he's positive no one will get hurt.